Welcome. This is Not Your Average Musician podcast with me, Isaac Hernandez, and co-host Dalton McLaughlin. What's going on, man?
Not a whole lot, dude. Just chilling, practicing, homework. I guess we're slightly recording out of order because Thanksgiving has passed, so that was chill. I didn't practice as much as I normally do, but hey.
Nobody does. It's Thanksgiving weekend, man. We gotta get a little break, right?
Yeah. I took a lot of naps.
That sounds nice.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Why don't we tell people what we want them to hear before we get started?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, obviously, if you want to get insight into the life of a professional musician and what it takes to succeed, then hit that subscribe button. We're streaming on all platforms as well as YouTube. Please help us grow the podcast by leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's incredibly helpful. We got more reviews now.
Got a couple of more reviews.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
Tell your buddies, friends, and it's cool. It's baby numbers, and obviously we are continuing to grow. But like when people start writing reviews or giving us a rating, I'm like, all right, cool. People, you're out there. I know you're listening. But just give us some love, and then it will be super duper cool.
Yes.
Because think of it from a listener standpoint. The podcast gets cooler. We blow up maybe. One day get sponsored by Savarez Strings, please. Savarez Strings. I go through strings quite quickly. And then, it's cool, because I was looking at the Spit and Chicklets, the hockey podcast, which is really big. And they got a lot of, cool merchandise and stuff. And, dude, you go to a hockey game, you see people repping Spit and Chicklets. So that'd be cool. You go to a concert and somebody has, a little beanie with, our cool logo, Not Your Average Musician podcast. That'd be pretty dope.
That'd be pretty dope, man. Yeah.
One day, right? One day we'll get there.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get there. We'll get there. And definitely thank you to everybody that's been with us, since the beginning and now, because obviously we're still kind of in the beginning stages, so we really appreciate it. And diving into today,
Much love.
Yeah, for sure. Today we're having Suke Cerulo on, who's a colleague and co-worker of ours. He works at the New York City Guitar School with us. And before we bring him on, we want to talk about moments in our lives that kind of helped us or prompted us to kick it to the next level, right? So I guess I'll start it off if you don't mind. And
you're on a roll. Keep going.
It just came to me, man. Now, what I wanted to talk about was when I started playing with the band that I've been in for quite a bit now, and that's my friend's band, Mike Bennett and the Soul Glow Orchestra. And Mike has been a mentor of mine for a very long time. He was actually my first guest on the podcast way before Dalton was the co-host.
Shout out.
Yeah. And Mike has been a mentor. He's always helped me with my music, my skills, and also exposing me to a lot of music. And when he put together his band, he has a pretty high standard for the musicians that he plays with. So I was definitely honored to be invited to play in his band. But everybody that he got, I found myself being the least experienced player in the room. And although that may sound, it was and it's still scary sometimes, we're like, damn, what am I doing here? But being in that situation has always pushed me, as intimidating as it is, because the people that he hires, they've played with big acts and things like that, and they're very, very good. So, it goes beyond playing the correct parts, it goes with really locking into the pocket with the band, those really tiny details that make a big difference, and I mess up so many times, but every time we have a gig coming up, not so much recently, but when we had gigs coming up, I used to just try and make it a little bit better, and in that, practice that much more. And I remember towards the beginning of that, I saw a constant growth in my skills, and I think in part it was like motivation that I was pushing myself because I didn't want to fall short, and also just learning, playing with people that are really good. You start picking up things, and those guys were very generous and giving me tips, and I always kept my ears open. What about you?
Damn, dude. That's so poetic. My answer is going to be slightly different. The worst music lessons have taught me the most. That's what has motivated me.
That's kind of the classical way, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's kind of like the dark, dude, it's like the whiplash approach, I swear. Not that people are throwing cymbals at my head. That'd not be good. But, and sometimes there were lessons that were good where, let's say I went in and I knew I wasn't ready, and that kind of reaffirmed me to how to practice to be ready, so I wouldn't have another lesson like that again, or at least not anytime soon. Because sometimes you learn a new piece and it wins, at least at first. It wins.
Mm-hmm.
You lose. You have a big bruise. That thing. But sometimes there's lessons where you go in and you think you know what you're doing, but you don't. Those ones are probably even more ass kicking and motivating. Like I've told you it one time, and probably on the podcast, I don't remember when, playing for Mang Su and her going, dude, your right hand's a mess, and like fixing that. And I thought I knew what I was doing. Clearly didn't. But I was like, I had to go back, and it's playing Asturias by Issac Albanese, right? Which is it's a pretty standard guitar piece. And I was probably playing it for like a half a year at that point, maybe a little bit more. And I practiced it a lot, probably over practiced it. And then she's like, oh, your right hand has a lot of tension, and it's not good for your hand and your joints and muscles. And she gave me a nice right hand lesson. And then, well, I had to go back and practice that piece again for another 4 months, and then it sounded better and more relaxed. And I'm like, oh, she makes a lot of sense. Applied it to the rest of my playing. Just like things like that, where it's like you learn something and you're just like, damn, dude, I need to go back and practice everything, because what she taught me doesn't apply to that one piece. It applies to everything. So for me, getting your ass kicked in the correct way is what motivates me, probably more than anything.
Yeah.
Much different answer. You're like, oh, I'm learning stuff from this guy, and when someone goes, dude, you suck, but this is how you fix it, I'm like, well, give me some time, I'll fix it, I'll try. Like, let's go. I want to prove you wrong.
More in the negative reinforcement.
Yeah, I like button heads, and that's not butting heads, but just going in. And bro, it's the same thing with the tone. I remember you said before I was your co-host, man, I got told that I needed to work on my tone so many times that I went back to playing, music that I should have played 3 months into my classical guitar life. Bro, freaking playing Ode to Joy.
Oh no.
The Christopher Parkening book. I'm like, I'm just gonna play stuff that I know I can't mess up. It's gonna be impossible.
Yeah.
Or my Giuliani right hand studies. I'm like, I'm gonna go back to square one. I learned these over 10 years ago. Let's learn them again.
Yeah. But that's not a bad approach, because then you can focus on what you need to focus. I tell students like that all the time. You're trying to work on something, one thing, focus on that one thing. So make everything else as easy as possible. You can't try to work on 5 difficult things at the same time. You're going to go crazy.
Yeah, dude, it's like in violin. They're like, I think you need to do some open string work. I did some open string work on the guitar. I didn't even play anything other than E, A, D, G, B, E. That's it. 6 notes, no more, no less. No left hand.
Open string work. There you go. That's what you need, kids.
The tip.
Yeah.
I guess. For tone work, at least. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean that's very interesting, you know, that everybody gets prompted, you know, to kind of move forward in different ways. So that's I think that's unique to everybody, and I think it's important that every student should recognize in which way motivates them, because sometimes people are trying to motivate themselves in a way that doesn't really speak to them.
Yeah, and it can change. That's just like usually been the most impactful. I mean, obviously, when I hear like Paco de Lucia, I'm just like, wow, I clearly don't know what I'm doing. So let's go practice. But like that's like inspired. Like this is
Yeah.
more of a reevaluate my life and then go back to the shed kind of practice. It's a
Yeah.
different kind of practice
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
mentality. So
I hear you, man.
that's what I got.
No, that's it, man. Well, let's hear what Suke has to say, because he's had some extensive experience with some pretty big acts and kind of big benchmarks in his career that I think are going to be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, we'll let you name drop. Maybe the Allman Brothers. What?
Yeah, exactly. But let him tell us all about that. So let's welcome
Talk
Suke
about it.
on. Yeah, man.
On the Not Your Average Musician podcast, we'd like to welcome our good friend, Suke Cerulo. Suke is a badass guitarist and multi-instrumentalist from New York City with an extensive teaching, composing, producing, and performing career. He studied at Berklee College of Music, where he helped form the band Schleo, that later signed with Flying Frog Records, that's owned and managed by the Allman Brothers. Suke and his band share the stage with such legends as the Allman Brothers, Bela Fleck. Welcome to the podcast, Suke.
Well, thank you. Thank you guys for having me. So good to have you. See you guys here.
Thanks for coming on, bro. Really appreciate this. And
Cool,
thanks for
thank
the flexibility, man. I was living in the medieval times for a couple of weeks there. But
Oh, I can't imagine not having power, man. That just seems like it's bad enough as it is nowadays, right? Oh, by the way, we'll take your power away while you're at it. Oh, you're down on the ground. Let's give you a little punch down there. So,
That's
it's all
a-
fine, man. It's all good. Worked out perfect.
yeah. That's exactly what it
Yeah.
felt like. But we're back and running, so we're really happy to have you. Let's dive right into it, man. Can you maybe start with how you got into music and maybe a little bit of your time at Berklee and what that was like?
Oh, and the formation
sure,
of Schleo. You can't forget that.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Oh, the illustrious word of Schlejo. Actually,
Yeah.
I'll share the sticker here later.
Yes.
No, I started when I was 12 years old. I didn't grow up in an immediately music family. I mean, I was an only kid. It was just my mom, my dad. And I liked music to listen to as a kid or something, but it never like clicked with me. Even though the fact my grandfather was a big band jazz musician. But when I was young, he was long retired doing other stuff. He would listen to Louis Armstrong in his house when I was there. So Grandpa would listen to music, and usually he just had hilarious band stories. That was my first association with that, was like him telling me the time they were driving to Maine to play a show, and someone in the front seat flicked a cigarette butt out the window that flew back into the back window and caught the car on fire, and they're on the side of the highway in the middle of the winter with getting their saxophones out of the car while the car was on fire. You know? So it was like these comical stories my grandfather had about being playing in a band. But it never clicked with me that like you could play music. So anyways, one of my friends in seventh grade played I heard Van Halen. They just came out with 1984 had just come out, the album, and Jump was released. And the video, I think I saw him online, and of course Eddie just immediately resonated. I was like, oh my gosh, that is just what's going on here. So I remember I got the tape, the first album, and I heard Eruption, and that was it. And I was like, Mom, I want a guitar. Like I need a guitar. And this was in like the summertime. So by the time Christmas came around, when I was 12, I got my first guitar, and I was in awe. I just didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how stuff worked. I thought you could press one note and the chords would happen. I didn't even know what was happening. So I got a lesson the next day. The local music store opened up, this little small podunk thing in the town here, and I started lessons. And I never looked back. I immediately knew I wanted to play music in some capacity in my life. Like it just was an epiphany that just was like anyone. The cool thing I remember that struck me was that like when I was younger, I liked sports too. I still do a lot of athletic stuff, but I used to play like pop. They call it Pop Warner football, which was the little kids football, and I loved it and I was good at it and stuff. But I knew I wasn't going into the NFL. That's the only place you go when you play sports. You go into pro sports. I guess maybe you could coach and train and stuff. I didn't think about that, but I knew music didn't have an NFL. Anyone could play music. You could just play music. You didn't have to be certified to do it, like, you know, so it was a different mentality or something that I was like, it just freed me up to think I could just play music and do it. And I took it and I loved it. I wanted to learn as much as I could just because I thought the more you knew, the better you could do with it. I never understood people saying they didn't want to know what they were doing. I just didn't understand how that worked. But yeah, so I started taking lessons. I took lessons all through high school. I met my primary teacher in high school. He was at a different music store in the town over. And I studied with him probably 3 out of my 4 years in high school. Sandy Prager was his name. He lives down in Florida now. And it really caught me off guard. I mean, I was really into the 80s rock stuff. Van Halen, Randy Rhoads was my next guitar hero. Then my uncle sat me down with the proverbial milk crate of albums. And he's like, here, do you know who Jeff Beck is? I was like, no. Do you know who the Allman Brothers are? No. Okay, you know who Hendrix is? I'm like, no. So he gave me all his classic albums, Joe Walsh, these great albums. So he gave me just a milk crate of probably 15 or 20 of them. And that just changed everything. I just instantly fell in love with all that stuff. Pink Floyd and some of those things. But my teacher played a nylon string fingerstyle, but he was playing jazz. Dalton's like, yo, he played jazz though. Sorry, just joking.
He still played a nylon string though.
Yeah,
That's
but he played a nylon string. So he was into Ralph Towner. If you guys know Ralph Towner in Oregon and stuff. So that was kind of the style. And I just took it. He was really a good player and he knew everything he was doing. So I just listened to him. So I ended up getting a nylon string. It was one of my first guitars I got. And we were doing fingerstyle, like Fernando Carulli exercises and stuff that I was working through, learning to read and stuff. And he just had me reading stuff. And, but I didn't do anything that I wanted to do, which was like Hendrix and Van Halen. I had no idea what they were doing. And I was like, I'll just figure that out on my own and have my teacher show me what he's going to show me. But I was so grateful he did that. But anyway, so that went through. He got me going, prepared. He was a Berklee grad himself, so he got me going there. And then I went to Berklee in 1990. The school was changing then. It was a really strict jazz school, but it was now starting to expand. Like they had, not only had they had engineering programs, but now they were having like business management programs and copyright law programs, and which was cool because I knew I had to have many hats. I knew I had to do different stuff besides just playing guitar. So Berklee at that time was cool that they had a professional music major that I could do, kind of pick your requirements you want to do. So I was able to get audio engineering stuff, composition, performance, basic law and copyright stuff, if you're teaching lessons in your own house, what's tax deductible kind of stuff even. Like, so I was like, wow, this feels pretty cool. Like I was able to get my hands on a lot of parts of the music industry, which I think helped Berklee establish themselves in a different way than your conservatories or something we're doing. You know, they were kind of hitting the mainstream of the music industry more than just the language of music and stuff. So, but it was great. Berklee was different. You know, I don't know if did you guys go there? No, you guys didn't go there, did you? It was cool. There was a lot of crazy good players there. I think I'm overlapped with either Petrucci or John Mayer at some point. I think Petrucci was probably a little earlier than I was there. I think he got out in like 89 or 88 or something. I forgot when they said he was there. But there were some crazy people there, and then there were some people who were not good at all, and that really confused me. Like they would change principal instruments. Like this semester they're a vocal major, next semester they're a bass major, third semester they're an engineering major, and then they took a summer off and I never saw them again. There was a lot of those people who went to the school, I guess, imagining something magical would just sprinkle upon their head and they would become great, when they just dicked around and didn't do anything. But no, it was cool. It was intense. It was just music 24/7, which was my favorite part. I woke up thinking about music. I did music all day at school. We jammed afterwards. We played in the dorms. You listen to music. You talk to your hallmates. We were just playing, exchanging ideas. So many people I met, even the dorm, I still like. Alistair Green's on the West Coast. He's a great blues rock guitar player. He played in Alan Parsons for years and stuff, and I still talk to him a lot. And just different people just had exposed me to so many different things when I was there, which I loved. And just the teachers too, like Pat Metheny would come and talk, and Gary Burton. The different players would come in and do clinics. That's where I first saw Danny Gatton, and that changed my life when that dude came through that school. I don't know how familiar you guys are with Danny Gatton. And his hybrid picking. He came through the school, and one of my roommates is like, "Man, you got to come down and check out Danny Gatton." And I was like, "Who is he?" "Oh, he's like a rockabilly guy." I was like, "Oh, I don't want to see that dude." He's like, "No, he's more than that. You got to come see it." And I was like, "Okay." So I'm so glad I did, because I was like 10 feet in front of him, and he's a Telecaster dude, but he's a hybrid picker of insane abilities. And I never saw someone do that. So that's when my two worlds fused together. All my fingerstyle stuff from my teacher and my picking stuff. Because when I got home, I just played with the pick. You know, I thought it was either one or the other. And then once I saw Danny Gatton do the pick and fingers, I was like, oh my gosh. Like my whole world. And it was actually a problem for school, which was funny because we had to do proficiencies for stuff. So when we had to do finger picking pieces. So when we had to do, play that, I was so proud of myself that I did it with hybrid picking. And he wouldn't let me do it. And he's like, "You can't do that." And I was like, "No, but I am." He's like, "No, you can't." I'm like, "But I'm right now, I'm doing it." And he's like, "You can't do that." And I was like, "But I can." So we used to argue. And I finally got it out of him. He's like, "Well, we have to grade you on how you do it without the pick." I was like, "I know, but I'm playing it with it." And he's like, "Yeah." So that where I had frustrations with that about the school. And any institution has that. You got to guide the students enough. So there's going to be fringe moments like that. But it was fun. It was a really cool experience. So definitely intense.
That's amazing, dude. So I can't imagine what an exciting time. Boston in the 90s.
It was nuts, man. Yeah, parts of that stuff like Back Bay was crazy. Like it was just, there was some rough stuff going on. There's some crazy stuff going on. It was, but it was cool.
That's awesome. Can you tell us about the formation of your band? I'm not sure.
Schleho. Hey man, you are not the first one. We've had many times. We were on like the main stage of Big Dinner, and welcome Schlegel. We're like, oh, dude, like every time. No, we were a glutton for punishment in terms of that stuff. I don't know why we did as well as we did with how badly this was happening. So Schleho was a band that existed. Before I got to it. So when I was in my 3rd or 4th year at Berkeley, a childhood friend I'd known since kindergarten, John McBride, was this great sax player. He came to Berkeley at the time I was there, which was great. I was like, oh, another great lifetime friend. And he met this guy, Eric, who's a drummer. And I was one of the few times in my house. Now, I grew up about 20 minutes outside of Boston. And I was never one of those people who had like house parties or all that stuff. I always went to them. It was just not my thing. My parents were going to be away, and I was going to have a big party. It was college, and so we invited a lot of people out there. And my friend John brought this guy, Eric, with him. And as soon as he got in the door, Eric, who I just met, he had long, crazy dreads. He's like, "Man, do you mind if I use your phone for a second?" And I was like, sure. And he made a long-distance phone call for like 45 minutes. And I remember telling my friend John, like, "Dude, what is this guy doing? Like, what is his problem?" And he's raving around the house. "I can't breathe." I'm like, "Dude, get this guy out of here. Like, what are you doing?" Like, "I don't know. I don't know what's going on." So come to find out, he was in a band called Johnny Schleho, and him and the bass player and the keyboard player all grew up together. And their guitar player just crashed the bass player's car. And they were having trouble with the guitar player, and they were having issues with him, and they finally just snapped. And it was at this very moment he showed up that he just got wind of this whole thing, pre-cell phone world and everything. So a few months later, we're at Berkeley, and they said, "Hey, man, we're looking for a guitar player. Do you want to audition?" And I was like, and one of my goals going to Berkeley was to come out of school being in a band. I was like, that was my last kind of final hoorah, was to get in a band to start doing something. So I was like, sure, I'll come over. Now, about 6 months earlier, a couple years earlier, I started hearing from this band called Fish. So the bass player from Fish went to my high school. He grew up in the same town. And he was friends with my sax player's older brother. They were in a band together in high school called the Tombstone Blues. Dan McBride. So him and Mike Gordon knew each other like that. So we started hearing about Fish getting a little bit bigger and a little bigger, and they're getting some momentum. This is like in 87, 88. I got their first album, Junta, and there was a song called You Enjoy Myself, which floored me. Was just an amazing guitar thing. Like, there was a pretty, I don't know if you guys know the song at all, but it's pretty involved. The whole band, first half of the song is pretty intense. Zappa-esque in terms of arrangements and depth and time signatures, and like really involved. So when they asked me to audition, they're like, yeah, do you think you can, do you know the song You Enjoy Myself? I was like, yeah. Well, we know it, but we just need the guitar part. And I was like, okay. Like, I got, like, my stomach fell out on the floor. Like, I got so sick with the idea of how in the world am I going to play this thing? There's no tabs, there's no internet, I have a CD. My brand new, I just graduated from records and tapes into my CDs. So I sat there for 3 days straight, and it was just an arpeggio exercise. This whole thing he was doing, this whole arrangement, all these chords and all these, and I sat there for 3 days just trying to do this on a CD is such a pain in the ass to do. Unlike, it was just hard to navigate. So it took me 3 days, and I finally got most of it, and I got over there, and we played through it, and I couldn't believe these guys were playing the whole song. I'm like playing along with the intro, like, oh my god, this band is playing this entire thing like perfectly. I was so scared and stunned. So after the first couple of times playing, they were like, all right, man, let's do this. And when the band kind of formed, and I was like, so what's up with the name Johnny Schleigo? 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 Like, what the hell? They're like, oh, well, it's just, it doesn't really mean anything. And I was like, who's Johnny? And I was like, I hated that. I was like, we just got to get rid of the Johnny part. I don't want to, who's Johnny? Do it for Johnny. I was like, no, man, this isn't The Outsiders or Karate Kid. Like, just stop with the Johnny. Like, get it out of here. There's no Johnny. There's, it's just, no. So Schleigo stuck. We started playing shows, and we tried to change the name, but it kind of kept sticking, and we didn't shake it. So then we had, it's funny because I just dug this out from like 20 years ago. This was our logo and bumper sticker. Now, just as you guys are both looking at it, so we had a name that you couldn't pronounce, you couldn't read or spell, and then we wrote it in the logo like this. So here's the S.
Oh, I see it now.
CHLEIGHO. Yeah, hilarious, right? So we were just like, it's like amazing that we did as well as we did.
Well, the branding's on point.
This is like, I try to tell my students about this who were even playing in bands, that we used to have mailing list parties. The only way we told fans, we had a physical mailing list that we would have like one of our friends go around at a concert, be like, please sign on the mailing list, please sign on the mailing list, please sign on the mailing list. And we would go to the post office, we'd print out, we'd get 900 stamps, we had 900 mailing labels. We would go to Kinko's and I forget even how we put the calendars together in a basic Word document or something. I think our bass player had a computer. And then we'd print them out, and we'd have our friends over. We'd have enough money to buy a case of beer, and the 10 of us would like sit down and just label the postcards and have them all boxed up, and would go to the post office the next day every month and would mail out our card. And we'd get other cards from other bands, and that's how we'd find out about clubs. We're like, oh, look at this place in Albany. This is the third band. We got to call Valentine's in Albany. And then that became our home place in Albany for 10 years. And we just grew and more, and then we were peaking at 200 dates a year probably. We were playing 5 or 6 times a week. Wow. Sometimes I think we did 21 shows in a row was the longest. 21 straight days of shows, bursts.
Yeah.
We went out, I think 11 weeks was the longest we left before we came home. Like, so we did a lot of playing of everything you can imagine. It was like Spinal Tap. We've opened for a puppet show. We almost got lost in the basement up at Fort Drum at the understage area. We played at an army base at Fort Drum. So anyway, there's a lot of funny, so any kind of gig you can imagine we did. But yeah, it was amazing. So we did 5 albums and toured. We still play. Actually, we just jammed a couple weeks ago, the original members, 25 years later, 6 years later, whatever it is.
Damn, man.
Damn,
That's
dude.
Crazy.
Sweet. Cool.
Actually, 27 years. Yeah, that was 1993 we played together.
Wow.
That's the year I was born,
Sorry.
Sue. 93. Anyways, just to interject. But
And on that
before I
note,
ask,
all right.
yeah, I want to ask you. But what's funny is that like Suke and I have like similar upbringings, but we chose the different paths. We're like, my first guitar teacher was like, Dalton, you need to play with a pick, and I could do it. I can still kind of do it. I'm not the best pick player, but I got like bored with it, and I just instantly went to finger picking, and then I started playing classical guitar, where like you sounded like somebody introduced classical, and you're like, dude, I just want to be a rock star, because I wanted to be a rock star, and I realized really quick that I didn't like playing rock music, which is not very common. But then like I went the other way, and someone's like, hey, Cerulo, where like I should have stuck, or if I would have just gone with Cerulo right at the beginning, I probably would have been like happier. But I guess we learned.
We live and learn, right? Exactly.
That's true.
Cool. Dang, you talked so.
You gotta get you gotta get a whammy bar on your nylon string, man.
No, it's cost.
Oh,
It
come on.
costs.
A locking nut too. You can put a locking nut on there. It's all right. No one will judge.
I would judge myself. Man, are locking nuts, are those made out of bone? Or are they still
No,
plastic
stainless
nut?
steel. They're metal.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see. I
they're all
need
metal.
bone.
Yeah, this one has one. You need the bone.
Bone
for the
saddle,
tone.
bone nut.
Get the
Yeah, bone for the tone. Nice.
bone
I'm
for the
stealing
tone,
that.
Man. There you go. That's okay,
yeah.
man. We can co-opt it. That's all right.
Sweet. But yeah, you told us so much. I'm like still processing it.
There's a lot. I talk a lot. So.
It's okay. It's good. That's what this is for. It's just that I do all this research and like have like all these cool questions, and I'm like, damn. Well, Suke kind of answered like 90%, so I gotta like be creative on the fly.
Well, I have a question in that case, since we're getting
wait.
creative. Oh, go shoot.
Wait. Well, okay. So I want to hear about kind of playing with the Allman Brothers / the label, the Flying Frog label. I want to hear about that.
Man.
But before we do that, you brought up something which is our injected humor. Is what was the craziest backstage story? Because you like already told one right off the bat about the cigarette in the car lighting on fire, and I was like, damn, dude. But like,
yeah, well, that was my grandfather's
was-
road. So the road stories we were just talking about how we have to compile a book of the stories. There's some stories that are unbelievable that I look back and I'm not a religious person, but I thank God things are okay. Let me go to the first question. So I was always an Allman Brothers fan. I always loved the Allman Brothers. I saw them every time they came around the Boston area, which was multiple times, like at least twice a year. They'd come by. It was like the Allmans, Clapton, Santana, Stevie Ray Vaughan were always on a rotation of touring through the Massachusetts area. So I got to see those guys all the time, which was awesome. So I love the Allman Brothers, and I remember when I was at Berkeley, they were doing a meet and greet at Tower Records, which was just across the street. So we waited in there, we met them all and talked to them, and I was so excited, like their new album with Warren Haynes just came out and stuff, so I got to meet him and stuff. But then a couple years later with Schleho, we were up in the Iron Horse, which is a great one of my favorite music venues in Northampton, Massachusetts. And we were playing there, and I kept looking down, and in the front row, I'm like, this big guy sitting in the front row is like, he really looks familiar. Like, who is this dude? And come to find out, it was Butch Trucks, the drummer from the Allman Brothers. And he was sitting in the front row with his daughter. He was actually on tour for colleges in the area, because up there in the area, there's at least 5 mega colleges, that, especially women's colleges and stuff. So he was up there touring colleges with his daughter. And he wanted to go see a local band. So we saw him, and he come up, and he loved our drummer. Now, my drummer is a mystical guru of rhythmic awesomeness. And I've learned so much from him about rhythms and stuff on so many levels. So Butch Trucks immediately gravitated toward our band because of our drummer. Our drummer was just ridiculous. He was just insanely good. He was the kind of guy that when he was back at Berkeley, the teachers were hiring him to play shows all the time. Like, he was that dude. So Butch told us that he was starting a record label. It was him, O'Teal, who's the bass player, a couple of members of management, a couple of Johnny Podell, like these other kind of Allman Brothers institution people. They were pulling together to start a new type of record label, and they wanted to talk to us. He liked what we were doing. So we're like, okay, this is what we've been waiting for, right? This is the moment. So we had to come down and meet in New York here. We came down and met him at a hotel, and we signed a label. We signed a 5-year agreement for a couple CDs and some money up front and some shares. And he had a different approach where instead of like paying for us to go into a studio for a couple of weeks, he wanted to do it like the Allman Brothers did it. He basically wanted to negate all the mistakes the Allman Brothers got themselves into and do it the way it should have been done. So his idea was to buy us all the studio equipment and rent us a space so that every time we rehearsed, we could record it. And then when we capture those magical moments, that's the album material. It's not trying to make it happen on this date in this new place you've never been to before. So he wanted that approach with the label, which we really liked. I was like, that sounds great. So he literally bought like $100,000 worth of gear. And we had preamps and we had a full studio setup. I mean, the full thing for what it was back then, which were DA-88s, digital tapes. We had 3 racks of those, and we had a D8 bus Mackie digital mixer that just came out, which was the thing back then. And these things are like freaking coffee tables now. They're useless. So he set us up with that, and then as soon as that happened, he's like, we're going to set you guys up with my nephew Derek Trucks band's touring a bunch. We're going to send you out playing with him. We're like, oh, cool. Derek was cool. And we're going to have you guys open for us, the Allman Brothers. We're going to do a bunch of things. We have the Peach Festival down in Florida. You're going to come. We're going to put you in front of these spaces, and then we're going to try to get you guys on Letterman. Because, if you get on Letterman, they'll sell you, like, you can sell, like, 40,000 albums just from being on Letterman. We're sitting there just like, oh, my gosh. So, like, a week later, he pink-slipped Dickie Betts and fired Dickie Betts as a guitar player from the Allman Brothers, which completely tanked all of the intent of what was going to happen with everything. Everything just took a complete different turn after that. But we stayed with him. I mean, the best part was we played probably 50 shows with Derek Trucks. And that was just awesome, getting to know him and play with him and repeatedly, night after night, doing the same kind of things and talking backstage and hanging, talking shop. And he's very shy up front, but he's a very funny guy and he's very cool. We played a lot together and just jamming and stuff, and it was just cool just to see him just keep ascending. Like, 15 years later, we're like, dude, Derek is just, like, here he is a picture on stage playing for B.B. King with John Mayer watching him. He's ripping a solo. Like, with Derek, dude, this is amazing. Like, he's so talented and he's so, it's so cool. And his band now with his wife and stuff with Susan, and she's just phenomenal. I love her voice. They're just superb, that band. So we got to do a lot with that, and that was really fun. A lot of shows, and we did open for the Allman Brothers. I mean, that was, they call them the Sheds, like your Jones Beach kind of, or PNC Bank Center in Jersey. Like, we did a handful of those, and we did a bunch of the side stages. So if you go to like PNC Bank Center, they have like the Levi's beer stage, separate band stage, kind of on the way into the venue. So we did probably a few dozen of those for the Allman Brothers. So we'd be on tour and and the cool thing is they'd give you unlimited passes for the Allmans. So you had a sticker and you could walk anywhere in the venue. I mean, you literally could go on the tour bus with the band. I mean, it doesn't matter. You could just walk, just show the pass. Okay, so that's true. You feel like a king. It was like so cool.
Was it the Schleho sticker?
No, it was not the Schleho sticker.
That was a bad joke. Sorry,
that was a bad joke.
You
get the Billy Club beat. Get this thing out of here, man. Dirty band people. But it was so fun just to walk around like that and just, we kind of got to know Greg a little bit. He was very secluded. They were all being sober. They fired Dickie because Dickie wasn't sober and he was supposed to be under contract. And it was just all the stories that started unfolding because of that relationship just caused some entertaining. So I got to know the Allman Brothers in a much different way. That was the only thing I didn't like about it, is it really disenchanted me of my love of their music, because I got to see all the dirty business and dirty laundry behind it all, and I was like, oh, man, like that was one of my favorite bands. Like, damn it. Like, so, but it was, I mean, I still appreciate it all. I loved it all. I would never, you know, it was so educational and just, it was amazing to get that close to those people and do that kind of stuff with them. But yeah, that was the coolest thing. One of the crazy thing with Derek was he would often sit in with us, which is great because he's on your turf, right? So you know the song, you know the thing, he'd come up and play. And then one time we were down in Delaware at an outdoor festival somewhere, and we just finished packing up the van. We played first, he was playing after us, or there was a band in between as they were setting up. And the road manager comes over and he's like, "Hey man, Derek wants you to play with him tonight." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "My amp is at the back of the van behind all the gear." And he's like, "No worries, man. We got an amp for you to use." I was like, "Oh, okay, sweet." So I get over there, and he's like, "All right, here's the 1968 Fender Super Reverb you can use." And I was like, "Oh, this is nice." He's like, "Oh, yeah, this is the one Greg Allman gave Derek for his birthday." I was like, "Sweet, dude, I'll take it." And jumped up on stage, you know, in front of like 8,000 people. Don't know what you're going to do. And Derek's like, 3, 4, and we just hit a song. So got to find out what key, what the chords, don't know what we're doing. Luckily, it was like a G blues. Which I found out by, I think, bar 5. I realized we were in a G blues.
Thank God,
which I was
right?
like, okay, there's the 4 chord. All right, I know where I am. And so I tell my students, I'm like, man, you know the knowledge of a 12-bar blues. I did it. You can do it in front of thousands of people, not knowing it. So that was really fun and exciting. And also in that band was one of my heroes, Kofi Burbridge. I don't know if you guys know this guy. Oh, Kofi was magical. He's the older brother of O'Teal Burbridge, who's the bass player who was in the Allmans for years, who's now in the Dead band with John Mayer and stuff, and Phil Lesh. I mean, and Bob Weir and stuff. And he was a flute and keyboard player who was just unbelievable, perfect pitch kind of guy, just musical genius from the ground up. So it was good to get to know him and stuff as well. But so yeah, man, that was the Allman Brothers thing. That lasted for 5 years, and I still see those guys, and I still see Derek once in a while, and just.
Oh.
Oh man, he froze.
A little bit of technical difficulties. I got some editing to do.
It would appear so.
Yeah. We'll give it a second.
Yeah. Oh,
You guys
back.
there?
Oh, yes. There you go.
Wow, sorry about that. I don't know.
No, that's all right.
We usually have good internet over here. Yeah, so that was the Allman stuff.
That's incredible, man. I mean, what is it like now, like playing gigs now after you've done, so, you know, gigs like that?
You know, oh man, it's bittersweet. It's, you know, to be totally honest with you, it's you miss the bigger shows. It's so magical, man. You know, a few years ago, like Mo had me jump up on stage at the Nokia Theater at one of their shows, packed. Just, you can't go wrong. The tone is on. Just everything is just, it feels so good. Like it's, you know, it's one of the best feelings in the world. It always keeps you just wanting that next one. One more show might put you to that next show again, or that next situation again. Mm-hmm. So no, every time I play, I always play with the same intensity and effort and appreciation of it. And sometimes it's really hard if you're in a bar and there's not a lot of people there or something like that. And play for who's there, play for yourself, and play just to play, you know. So, but it's hard. You want all those gigs. Now, what does piss me off is all my buddies who are in bands who do play those shows, you know, 60, 100 times a year, and they're like, "Oh man," I'm like, dude, shut up. Oh, the bus is so. I'm like, you're on a tour bus and you're complaining, dude. Like, stop. You know,
Right.
Appreciate those. And I'm sure nowadays they're definitely like, man,
Oh yeah.
we were living like kings. You
Yeah.
know, it's so awful now how much it just stopped.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude, if you play classical guitar or like that kind of style, like, dude, if there's like 40 people, you're like, wow, this is a packed house. So
I know. I have played jazz too. We do play a lot of jazz, so I know that feeling as well. Now again, for Schleo, we definitely had to earn our fans one fan at a time because our music was crazy complicated, and we were playing it for hippies. But they loved this stuff. People were into Fish and the Dead and all that stuff. They just really, we're playing like progressive fusion and 11 and stuff. Like people were doing, like crazy chords and dissonance and, to half diminished chords and stuff. And people were just like, we were called biker jazz. People like that's what they used to refer to us.
Like, Suke, have you been to not the 92nd Street Y? Have you been to? Gosh, I'm trying to think of the name. Symphony Space on the Upper West Side. You know the little basement theater. Oh man, more editing for Issac.
Oh no, it froze again?
Oh, you're good.
Okay, you're back. This will be my last question, and then I gotta go be a high school music teacher. But or statement. So you know that basement at Symphony Space, like the small one that houses 150 people.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where like the best classical guitarists play their concerts. So
wow.
Yeah. So it's there, and you're just like,
house.
this is the packed house. Like, dude, there's not an empty seat, but there's like 150 people.
Hey, man, that's the 150 people, though. That's a lot of people to be listening to music.
That's
I'd still welcome 150 people anytime, man. I'd welcome 15 people. That's hard, man.
Totally.
That's good.
Yeah. Let me. You got to give us one crazy road story.
Oh, the stories. Probably the bus one. There's a couple. There's a handful of them. All right, Dalton. Great seeing you, man. As far as the stories go, the one of the most memorable, we'll put it, stories is when we had a tour bus that we got, which was like one of those airport-style shuttle buses, like 30 feet long, fiberglass, the kind that bring you over the bridge and stuff from, from the bus station and stuff. We were able to get one of these before our tour. So we had rigged it up to have bunk beds and gear, and we had a few people come on tour with us because we were going to be out for a few months. We were doing the whole U.S. We were doing it in this bus. And this bus had so many problems with it in so many different ways. Like on one occasion, we were driving down 90 on going to Buffalo, and a tire went flying by us on the highway. We're doing like 80 miles an hour. A random tire just rolls by us over the median and into oncoming traffic on the highway.
God.
It ripped off of our bus's axle, the double axle, and flew past it. Anyway, the bus was a problem from so many things. that resulting was because of this thing. We were in California, and we were going to play the festival. Oh, what's it called? It's on Bear Mountain or something mountain. I think it was Bear Mountain. It was way up this mountain range. So our bass player did the night shift for driving. And now back then, Rand McNally was our GPS. I don't know if you know what Rand McNally is, but they made all the paper maps. So we just had a paper atlas book that was our map.
Gotcha.
That's all you had for directions. You just look on the map and you say, where are we? And just try to find. That was how we did for a decade. So the bass player was driving and he saw a shortcut to get to our thing. Now, this is the middle of the night. Most of us are in the bunk sleeping. Our road guy was sitting up next to our bass player as he was driving. Now, I had the top bunk of 3. I woke up because I was thrown out of the bunk. All of a sudden, I come flying out of the bunk, crashing onto the floor. I wake up furious, and I realize we're flying down this mountain. And I'm like, what the is he doing? So I went up to the front, and I was like, what the are you doing? I was like, slow down. He's like, I can't. And I'm like, step on the brake. And he's like, I am. And I realized he had both feet pushing on the brake. We weren't driving down the mountain. We were skidding down the mountain. Oh. Now, this is in the Sierra Mountains. These are hundreds and hundreds of foot cliffs, and most of them don't have a lot of guardrails. We are literally skidding around corners coming down this mountain. And I'm like, put the emergency brake on. He's like, it's on. And I was,
oh, God.
Oh, my God. So the bus is like swaying. Now everyone's awake in the bus. And he finally pulls around this long enough dirt corner, and we come to a stop. And about to have some relief here, the whole front of the bus, what I thought was dust in the headlights was smoke. I realized the front of the bus is now on fire.
Oh,
so we went out, and the rotors are on fire. They are like blacksmith orange. You know what a rotor is? That the brake pads squeeze, that metal disc. Mm-hmm. It had turned like molten metal.
Wow.
From the friction.
Yeah.
And it was on fire. under our engine. And now the bus is fiberglass, and we had filled it with wood when we built all the benches and everything else. This thing was going to go up in a second. So we had to get it off the bus, get off the bus, get off. We had the fire extinguisher. We kept blowing it out, and it would go out, and it was so hot it would burn off and reignite again. We're like, oh my. So finally I'm throwing dirt up into the rotors to put it out, and we finally get it out. We sit on the side of the road for like a few hours till someone drives by. They go down the mountain, they call the tow truck. So I come to ask the bass player what he was doing, and he didn't look at the topography on the map. He just looked at the short line. He didn't realize that it was like in crazy steep altitude that you're not supposed to bring a bus on. This road was supposed to be limited to cars like 15 feet and shorter. We were 30 feet long.
Wow.
We were not supposed to be on that road to begin with. So they send up a tow truck, which is one of those 18-wheeler style tow trucks, the ones that are like 35 feet long with a huge crane on it. So he hooks us up. He's like, what are you guys doing here? Like, this is crazy. You're not supposed to be here. He's like, all of you have to get back in the bus so I can tow you down because I can't put you all in the car. So, sorry, this is a crazy long story, but this is insane. So he fishes through the front driver's side window this brake light mechanism. He has to hang over the back of the bus for safety. Now, I'm saying this because this cable's coming through the driver's window and then up the escape hatch at the top of the bus to hang over the back. So all of us are in the bus, and this guy starts towing us down. Now, if you can imagine in the movies, when you see a road turning around a mountainside and there's a steep cliff around it, as he was towing around it, the bus was hanging over the cliff as the wheels dragged around the corner. We're looking out the window, looking down like 200 feet. We're over the air. Like, I'm about to throw up. Then I realize all the carbon dioxide from the exhaust is pulling through the bus because of the windows being open the way they were for the cable. So now we're all like starting to pass out. We're like, we're going to die. This thing is going to be our coffin. They're going to find us dead at the bottom of the ravine when the two trucks roll off the thing and we're down. Unbelievably, he got us all the way up to the festival. He towed us into the festival. People are all cheering like, yeah. We're like, oh, God. And he drops it. And we sat there for 3 days until we had another tow truck drive us off the mountain. But, yeah, I'll never forget that one. That one was that's one of the moments.
Good driver.
There's a book of stories. That truck driver was crazy. Yeah, he was a professional, serious, like, level trucky dude. But no, there's some crazy stories with crazy people that we've met over the years. A lot of stories I can't repeat here. People are just nuts in the world.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of fun touring, and we saw so many things, so many places and people and stuff, which was awesome.
That's incredible, man. So thanks for sharing that one, dude.
Yeah, that's a big one, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. Dude, tell people where they can find you and your music and stuff like that. I mean,
sure,
we'll put
awesome,
everything in the description too, but might as well let them know.
Absolutely. So for myself personally, on just SukeCerulo.com, that's my main website for my stuff. YouTube.com/SukeCerulo. There's a bunch of video up there. A video of Schleho with Derek Trucks playing. We have some stuff up there from him. Me playing with Mo and some other guys and stuff up there. On Spotify, same thing. Everything's under Suke Cerulo. Any of the streaming services, iTunes. I have a solo album I did 6 years ago that I'm really proud of. That has my drummer from Schleho and this bass player Matt Rubano, who used to play in Taking Back Sunday and All American Rejects and stuff. And he's just a monster bass player. And he was in Schleho for a couple years as a replacement. And so he's on that album. That album's called One Aim. That's on Spotify as well. And I just have a brand new track called Ice Storm that I put up. I recorded while we were in quarantine here. Did all the instruments. I play flute on it and guitar, and I did all the bass playing and played and programmed the drums and all the other stuff that's on there. So I'm really proud of that one. That was a monumental piece of work for me to put together. But yeah, so anything on all the streaming services under my name. And you can find Schleho stuff on Spotify as well. SCHLEIGHO. I assume they're on iTunes and everything else. We have our 5 albums up there that we did. And then if there's any listeners of live stuff on archive.org, Schleho had a big taping community. So I think there's a few hundred shows of ours up there from people who taped them over the years.
That's dope.
Yeah, and they've been downloaded like crazy amounts of time. I went one year, I was like, oh my gosh, these people are still listening to this. This is amazing. It's so cool. Schleho lives, man.
Yeah. Kind of how that's how the Grateful Dead got their stuff going.
Yeah,
you know?
that's what we figured too. And it was funny because Butch Trucks of the Allman Brothers, he didn't understand why people were mad that people were recording. He's like, these people are coming on their own time with their own equipment.
I caught the little end that you said Derek Truck or somebody not Derek Trucks. Was he the one getting mad about people recording?
No, Butch Trucks was mad that people were recording. He was wondering why people got mad when they recorded live shows. Right. Because they always encouraged it. And we did too. It's just just to document. I'm so glad that happened. You know, people recorded that stuff to keep it alive.
It's so great for marketing too. It's free marketing, you know.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. These people came and they brought their own gear and they did all the stuff you would pay someone a lot of money to do.
Right.
And then they went home and they dumped it all and they edited it all and labeled it all, uploaded it and emailed friends about it. Like, how could you go wrong with that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much again for taking the time. I know you're crazy busy.
Sure, man. That's no problem. And thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, for sure.
This is cool. This is fun. This is really fun, man. It's good to see you in Dalton again too.
And that was Suke, everybody. What do you think, man?
Dude, Suke is Suke, man.
Yeah,
he shreds.
He's a badass. Yeah.
I always remember just seeing him in the lounge, and he'd just pick up a guitar, waiting for a student, and I would just look over. I'm like, "What'd you just play, bro?" He's like, "Oh, it's nothing." I'm like, "Yeah, sure. That was nothing, right?"
Yeah,
his kind of thing.
His room was always next to mine, so I always heard him in between classes and always teaching. Like, it's always the same stuff that he's playing. He'll like show people, and it's crazy, man. Like his lead classes, you know, he doesn't hold back. I'm like, Jesus Christ. That, and also obviously more now, but he's got a great way of telling stories that, you know, he's got obviously quite a few under his belt, so that's
he's a veteran, dude.
Yeah, man, and he's got the experience for sure. But
oh yeah,
let's tell people how they can support the podcast.
Well, obviously you made it this far, you're supporting us.
Yes.
And as of now, with the pod, I mean, obviously you can subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I think something that is going to help us, help you, and help the world is just tell some friends that they're like, hey, found this new cool music podcast. Check them out. Don't be fooled by that super cool purple logo. These guys, they have good things to say. And even better than what we're saying is we're bringing people on who know a thing or two.
Yep.
And we're asking them good questions, and they're telling us really interesting things where I feel like I learn a lot from the podcast that I help run.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you're gonna learn something too.
Yeah, for sure. Cool, man. Awesome.
Yeah, no, that's what I would do if you want to give the pod love, is just share it. I think we're gonna make a comeback when COVID stops, because people are gonna drive again and people are gonna need more podcasts.
More podcasts, and that's good for us. We'll be there. Either way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Peace.